Hi there, it's Jen from EmpathicMastery.com, and happy Fall Equinox, which is the time of balance between day and night, between light and darkness, between winter and summer. And it is a time for taking inventory, a time for celebrating our harvests. It's a time for really acknowledging where we've been and where we are going. Now, if you're at all like me, you probably sometimes forget to look back and really acknowledge where you've come from, and particularly to celebrate what you've managed to accomplish. I know for myself that sometimes I'll get blinders on and I can get so focused on what's the next step and what's the next thing that I don't take a moment to pause and to look at what I've actually managed to do, and especially where I was, say, a year ago or 6 months ago or a few years ago, and to realize how far I've come. And so right now, with us really being poised between the year, like we're right on the balance of winter and summer, and right on that balance of equality between day and night, it's the ideal time to just take a moment and pause and really think about, where have I been and where am I going? But especially, what can I celebrate? What can I acknowledge? What can I appreciate about myself in this time? So I figured that one of the best ways for us to do this was to spend some time tapping. And so I figured that I would just do a little bit of tapping for the equinox, and for the fact that time is passing, that the tide is turning, and that we can take this time to acknowledge our hopes, our dreams, acknowledge our accomplishments, and appreciate where we've been and where we are going. And especially appreciate what we have managed to achieve and accomplish as we go through this process and this time. So, I'm just playing with my screen at the moment. So, if you are not familiar with tapping, it is a very gentle and, in my experience, incredibly effective way to reboot our nervous system and to allow ourselves to calm down our fight or flight mechanism, and to really shift the way we are perceiving the world. And the way it works is that we put light pressure or tapping on acupuncture points on our body, and by doing this, we reset our brain. Now, as with all of my videos, you agree to take 100% responsibility for your own process. Don't go places you don't belong. If I say something and it doesn't quite work for you, change the words to work for you. You are the one who's in charge of all of this. And if you notice that something is coming up, the best thing you can do is sort of emotionally back off a little bit and just keep gently tapping and breathing in calmness and peace, and breathing out any tension or worry. So we start by tapping on the side of the hand, and we acknowledge what's going on. And a lot of times we'll start by saying, even though this is happening, and then we say something that would be a turnaround. So I'm not sure if we would necessarily need to say, even though it's the fall equinox, as much as it's here we are at the fall equinox. And, or if you're down under, at the spring equinox. And this season is turning. Summer is coming to an end. And here I am. There's a lot to harvest. There's a lot to celebrate. And there's also things to let go of. And so as I sit on this day of equal balance between light and dark, I acknowledge where I have come from, and I acknowledge where I am going. And I love and accept myself. And I'm open to the possibility that this next season can be even more amazing than I'm imagining. So even though summer is over and we're heading into fall, and time is moving forward, and things are changing, I can look at where I've come from and celebrate. And I can recognize the things that it's time to let go of, the things that it's time to acknowledge, and the places where I want to go. Just pausing and taking this time to acknowledge where I've come from and where I'm heading. And I love and accept myself. And I'm open to the possibility that I can go into this new season with grace and ease and enthusiasm and hopefulness. So even though summer's over, and there's a part of me that is sad about this, because I love summer, and it is so beautiful and lovely. And going into fall means going towards winter and cold and shoveling snow. I can take this time to appreciate where I've come from and where I'm going. And for this moment to pause and to acknowledge where I was, what I have accomplished, and to celebrate this. So I'm just taking this time now to acknowledge everything, to recognize my accomplishments, to recognize the lessons I've learned, to recognize what I'm ready to let go of and where I want to be headed. And I love and accept myself. And I am open to the possibility that I go into this season with enthusiasm, with hope, with a new sense of possibility. Now we're going to tap on the top of the head, right on the crown chakra. Just acknowledging this change in season and where I'm coming from, which is, now this is a chance for you to acknowledge where you're coming from, and you can articulate it, you can express it. So, what was this last season like for you? Was it hectic? Was it filled with activity? Was it hard? Were there lessons? Just thinking about it. All of the activity of the summer, all of the things on the to-do list, all of the emergencies and situations, all of the lessons, all of the experiences, all of the ideas, some of which I did, some of which I didn't, all of the connections and the possibilities, all of the people that I spent time with, all of the places that I went, all of the work that I did, the plants that literally went into the ground. You can see the zinnias behind me. Those were seeds that were planted early, sort of at the end of the spring, beginning of summer. All of the time, the possibilities, everything that went into this summer. Just acknowledging it and taking this time to celebrate it. And as I tap, I think about What were the lessons I learned this summer? What were the lessons you learned this summer? For me this summer, one of the lessons was about just keep on taking one step and keep on doing one little thing at a time to get where we need to go, or I need to go. And another lesson that I learned was that ultimately it almost always comes down to recognizing what my bottom line is, what my line in the sand is, what the boundaries are that I need to set, and that if I don't set them in healthy ways, that my body will find a way to slow me down and will find a way to get me to do what it needs me to do. And that the most important thing I can do is honor my truth. Because if I don't, it's going to come out anyway. So that was my lesson. What was your lesson? Just taking this time to acknowledge it. I realized, I learned, you fill in the blank now. Just tap and talk, or think it if it's not appropriate to be talking out loud. Just acknowledging it. The lessons. Just taking this time to appreciate and acknowledge the lessons. Let's take a deep breath. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the side of the hand. We're going to acknowledge the lessons. And we're going to take a moment to acknowledge the stuff that maybe we're ready to let go of, that's based on the lessons we've learned. So even though I learned this lesson, now you get to name your lesson. I'll name mine, which is that my truth is going to come out either in a healthy way or in an unhealthy way. And that I can choose to acknowledge it, or my body will do it for me. And I think at this point, I'd rather do it consciously than let my body do it unconsciously. And so what I'm ready to let go of as I go into the fall is the bargaining, the people-pleasing, and the trying to pretend that my truth isn't my truth. And so I claim my truth. I acknowledge my truth as I go forward into this fall. And I love and accept myself. So even though I learned my lesson, this summer's lesson was about recognizing my truth, looking at where I draw my line in the sand, and honoring my body's limitations. And knowing that if I don't honor it consciously, my body will find a way to do it in a less conscious way. And so that's my lesson. What's yours? Just name it, maybe think it, acknowledge it. And from this lesson, What are you ready to let go of? What is ready to be released? Just taking this time to let it go. I'm ready to let go of my bargaining, my people-pleasing, my trying to pretend something isn't a big deal, and to acknowledge and honor my body's limitations and my needs. And letting go of that part of me that thinks I need to just suck it up and push on through. What are you going to let go of? Just acknowledging it. It's safe for me to let this go. So, even though I learned this lesson this summer, that if I don't respect my truth, that if I don't respect my boundaries, then my body will set those boundaries for me. That my needs, my truth, and my limits will find a way to be honored and met. And I can do this consciously, or I can do it unconsciously. And right now, I choose to do it consciously. And so I choose to release my people-pleasing, the part of me that thinks I can just suck it up, the part of me that thinks that if I just push harder, it will all be fine, the part of me that thinks that I can bargain my way out of it. And instead, I choose to honor my body. I choose to honor my truth. I choose to honor my needs and the lines that I draw in the sand. And I'm okay, right here, right now. And I deserve to let this go, and I deserve to set limits and to take care of myself. So just acknowledging what lessons you are learning, what lessons you have learned, and from that, what it is that you're ready to let go of. Now we're just going to tap on through the points and acknowledge what we're releasing. I release the bargaining. I release the sucking it up and pushing through. I release the denial of my own needs. I release the people-pleasing and the trying to meet other people's needs when they don't fit with what I need to do. I release the part of me that thinks if I just ignore it, I can just keep on going. I release the perfectionism. That's a big one. What are you releasing? I release. Just name it. I release. I release. It's safe for me to let this go. I deserve to let this go. It's okay for me to let this go. I release. I release. I release. I release. I take in a deep breath, and as I exhale, I let all this stuff go. Now we're coming back, and now that we've done some releasing, what are we going to celebrate? What can you say, go me? I accomplished this. that even though I had these lessons and I had these things going on, I still did this. So even though there's a part of me that just kept trying to suck it up, I celebrate that I could respect my truth and that I found a way to express it. And I also celebrate that I took one step after another and I just kept getting my butt in the chair, and I completed the first major edit of the book, Empathic Mastery. That's a really big one, and I need to acknowledge it. And there's lots of other things I can celebrate. My friends, my family, my gardens, the new building. Oh, the first level 1-2 EFT training I did in June. All kinds of amazing things that all happened because I just kept taking one step after the next and doing one little baby step at a time to get to where I needed to be. So what can you celebrate? What have you done that's like, go me, I rock? There's got to be at least one thing. Maybe it's that you just got out of bed in the morning. There certainly are days where that is the case for me. And then some days it's even, I gave myself permission to rest. I gave myself permission to relax. I gave myself permission to just watch Netflix for a few hours instead of trying to force myself. Hey, some days it's I literally emptied the dishwasher. So what are you celebrating? What can you acknowledge as we come to this point of balance between light and dark, between day and night, between winter and summer and winter? As we pause for the harvest and the inventory, what can you say? I did this. This was something that I can claim. Taking this time to claim it now. And acknowledging it. Just tapping on it. I acknowledge what I've done. And I celebrate it. So even though I had lessons to learn, I've got stuff that certainly I'm still letting go of. I'm not perfect by any means. I can still claim some stuff too. And I can say I rock. I can say that there were days where I was able to get the dishwasher unloaded even though I was exhausted. There are days where I got my butt up and out and I went for a walk. There are days where I reached out and connected with people even if I felt like isolating. There are days where I sat my ass down in a chair and I wrote when I didn't want to. And there are gardens where flowers grew, and friends, and meals, and walks on the beach, and all kinds of ways that I showed up for my life this summer. And I'm celebrating that. What are you celebrating? Just claim it. So even though summer is over, we're poised at the beginning of fall. And it's a time of harvest. It's a time to celebrate. And so I am celebrating all of the things that I did accomplish this summer. All of the ways that I showed up for myself in my life in big and small ways. And the little things like getting out of bed in the morning, like flossing my teeth when I remembered to, like unloading the dishwasher, and the bigger ways like sitting my butt in a chair and writing even when I didn't want to, and getting the first draft, the first major edit actually, of Empathic Mastery done, and teaching my first level 1 and 2 EFT training. These things are huge, and I'm just celebrating it. The little stuff and the not so little stuff. So what are you claiming? Just taking this time and claiming it. I claim, now's your chance to really do this. We're going to tap through and claim the things that you carried with you through the summer. I claim I showed up for myself in my life. I claim that I did empty a lot of dishwashers. I claim that I didn't have a hissy fit about emptying the dishwasher that many times, that I actually stayed calm. I claim that I spent time in nature and I walked in beauty. I claim that I carved out time to be with friends and really celebrated those connections. I claim, what are you claiming? Really acknowledging it, really celebrating it, pausing to take inventory. I claim, I claim, I claim. I acknowledge. 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 Let's take in a deep breath again. And so right now we're going to do one final round of tapping. And as we do this one final round of tapping, we're just going to think of, how do we want to acknowledge ourselves? Like, what do we want to say we are? You know, do you want to say that you're a badass? Do you want to say that you're a rock star? Do you want to say that you are bold and courageous? How do you want to acknowledge yourself? So, I know what I'm going to say. So, even though summer's over and I learned lessons and I had places where I definitely had some things to learn and I have stuff to let go of, I recognize myself as bold, as courageous, and as willing to show up. I rock. So even though summer's over, I had my lessons, I had the stuff that I need to let go of, I also managed to do a whole lot. And right now, I am recognizing that I am bold, that I am courageous, and that I have been willing to just keep showing up. And that is good enough. And I love and accept myself. So even though summer's over, and it's been a time of lessons and opportunities and learning and releasing and claiming and doing, right now I am recognizing the ways that I have shown up for my life, and that I am bold, that I am courageous, that I've been willing to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I rock. And I love and accept myself. Now we're just going to claim it. I've been willing to put one foot in front of the other. I've been willing to show up. I rock. I am bold. I am courageous. I'm a badass. I am growing. I am strong. I matter. I am good enough. What I have to offer to this world matters. My truth matters. I am loving. I am caring. I am empathic. And I have something to share with this world. And I love and accept myself. Let's take in a deep breath. Happy Equinox. Happy Mabon is another name for it. I hope that as we go into this new season, that you are filled with inspiration and hope and possibility and gratitude for where you have come from, for all of the things that you have gone through, all of the lessons you have learned, all of the ways that you have really, really taken quantum leaps in the last 6 months, in the last year, in the last 3 years, in the last 5 years, all of the ways that you have grown. Go you. You totally rock. And you deserve to take a moment or a day or a week to pause and to acknowledge where you've come from and where you are going, and to just really celebrate that you're here and you're doing it. So before I go, I am going to pull 3 cards to represent the message for this coming season. And so I'm using the Empathic Mastery Oracle deck. And if you want to get your own, you can go to empathicmasteryoracle.com. And I'm going to pull a card for what do we need to know about this coming season. And that is, ooh, this is so important and so relevant to exactly what I just did. So, even when it feels as though I still have a long way to go, if I look at my past and consider the lasting changes I've sustained, I can recognize just how far I've come. Now, if you were watching this whole tapping video, you know that we just tapped on exactly this. You can't make this shit up. This stuff is just like, this is magic right here, right now. And even when it feels as though I still have a long way to go, we all do. As long as we're breathing, we've got a long way to go. And even after we stop breathing, I believe we still have a long way to go. If I look at my past and consider the lasting changes I've sustained, I can recognize just how far I've come. I would love to hear where you can see how far you've come. Please leave comments below and talk about what you've learned. Talk about what you have accomplished, what you have achieved. Let's make this a thread of celebration. Now, the next card is going to be, what are the challenges as we go into autumn that we're going to be facing that we may, as empaths and sensitive people, want to be mindful of? And so, as I give myself permission to release and let things go, I send it all out to the universe with loving kindness. Okay, as I give myself permission to release and let things go, I send it out, all out to the universe with loving kindness. So I would say that the big challenge with this is actually about the fact that, one, we give ourselves permission to let the stuff go. That we don't carry it around and hang on to it for whatever reasons, whether it's our sense of obligation or guilt or responsibility, like that we have a loyalty to other people's suffering, so we need to hang on to it, or whether it's that we feel like we need to teach ourselves a lesson or that we don't deserve to let something go. And then the other piece of this that I see as the challenge is letting it go with loving kindness, instead of letting it go in a punitive way or a judgmental way, or in a way where we're kind of on our case about, oh, you jerk, you did this or you did that, that we really give ourselves permission to release and let things go to the universe with loving kindness. So that would be the challenge, is to really give ourselves permission and also to do it with loving kindness, as opposed to doing it forcefully or meanly or just in any way that is not for our highest good. And then the direction of where we want to go in is this. And I always, when this card comes up, I always find it interesting because it's a very specific one. And it says, when body talk or food thoughts arise, I recognize this as a request to live from my higher self and be richly present in my body with love and appreciation. So the way that I interpret this is that it's really inviting us to recognize when those lower thoughts of like self-criticism, self-doubt, those food obsessions, weight obsessions, any kind of stuff where we're kind of like in it and not being kind to ourselves, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to just go and beat the crap out of ourselves, that it's an opportunity for self-care, that it's an opportunity for really honoring who we are and being even more present in our body, in recognizing that instead of it being like, oh, this is a chance to be mean to me, it's a chance to recognize that maybe we need to be even more gentle with ourselves. Maybe we need to be even kinder with ourselves. And so this is about honoring our needs, taking ourselves for walks, eating really good, delicious, yummy, good, nourishing food, and to really looking at ourselves in the mirror and saying things like, I see you, I appreciate you, I really recognize that you're doing the best you can, I love and accept you right exactly the way you are. I love and accept myself exactly the way I am. And yes, Elizabeth, this totally takes practice. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like one step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and just continuously taking little steps, 1 step at a time. And if we fall short of the mark, if we find ourselves like, I don't know, deciding, saying that we're going to follow a particular food plan and then suddenly we're eating popcorn, or suddenly we're like, oh, that cheese looks really delicious, or that half a cake is something I'm going to go for, that we can lovingly bring ourselves back to the bottom line. And one thing I'll share with you specifically regarding lifestyle choices and food especially is that instead of having a very black and white rigid set of rules, what I have found to be incredibly helpful for me personally is that I have a 4-tiered system. And the way that I break it down is almost like if traffic lights had 4 lights instead of 3. And so there's green lights, which is absolutely totally acceptable at any given time, and a behavior or a food that is totally okay. Then there's the yellow lights, which are proceed with caution, which are, yep, it's okay, but it's not something that you want to be doing every single day. That really, it's not such a swift idea, but in moderation, it's all right. And then there's what I call the orange light, and that is on rare circumstances, in cases where maybe you're kind of up against a wall and it's the choice between, say, eating a bag of corn nuts and not having anything for hours and hours and hours, or just any number of choices and options where it's about like, this is what I have available, It's not something I would normally choose. It's not something I would ordinarily do, but it's good enough for now. Or say you have an exercise regime and you happen to be traveling, and the best thing that you can do is like go walk in the hotel corridor for a little while. It's about recognizing what your boundaries are. So we've got green, which is anytime. We've got yellow, which is proceed with caution and do it on occasion, but not all the time. And then orange is the only under rare circumstances. And then red is never. Red is, this is my absolute bottom line. This is where I draw the line. This is what is not acceptable under any circumstances. And if I find myself crossing that line, I really need to look at what's really going on. Why did I make that decision? What is it that made me decide to step over this boundary that I have set so clearly for myself? And in my case, one of my personal boundaries, my reds, is actually gluten. And so that's the thing where it's like, while I might occasionally have like a rice cake because I eat a grain-free diet, gluten is the thing where I'm like, absolutely, under no circumstances am I having this. And it can certainly be about food, it can be about drugs and alcohol, it could be about certain kinds of relationships and engagement, it could be about how you're working with Facebook, it can be any number of things. But it's really about getting clear for yourself about what your boundaries are. And so I'll offer this to you as we complete this video right now, which is to do a little exercise where you take a piece of paper, you draw a cross on it, and you basically have your always, occasionally, rarely, and never. And then fill in the things that you know sort of fit into those different categories. And then when you find yourself doing these kinds of things, you can be asking yourself, am I finding myself in the orange zone all the time? Am I stepping across where I'm treating the yellow zone like a green zone? And just recognizing what your boundaries are, what your limits are, and how you are taking care of yourself. So I hope you find that helpful. It's been a delight to see you guys today, and I will be ever so grateful for your help to get this video out into the world. So please, please, please like it, please share it, and please pass it along to other people who would find it useful. I would be just stoked beyond words for you to hit the share button and to let people know about this video, because I know I needed to be tapping on all of this stuff and thinking about what my boundaries are, and I imagine other people are too. So I'm going to go now because I've been on for a little while, but it has been a total delight to spend time with all of you guys, and thank you to all of you who have made comments and have given me hearts and everything like that. And until next time, I am wishing you peace and ease. Mwah. Bye-bye.